Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z. Martin, and tonight we are continuing our conversation on the best Sam episodes. But before we dive in, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Kyoko.
Hi, everybody. I am Kyoko M. I am the author of the Black Parade Urban Fantasy series, as seen here, and the Cinder and Bone science fiction series, as well as a 3-book trilogy with Falstaff Books and 2 Marvel anthologies as well.
Very good. Carole?
I am Carole Stokes. I started watching Supernatural in season 3, started writing fanfic in 2012, and as Ellis Colton, I now self-publish MM romance, often with a paranormal slant.
Okay. And I'm Gail Z. Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern day worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. I fell in love with Supernatural halfway through season 11, binge watched 11 seasons so that I was ready for the start of season 12, and fell down the rabbit hole and haven't hit bottom since, and hope I never do. So we went through quite a few episodes last time, but there are more because it's Sam. So let's do what we did last time. Go around, give one, and we'll just keep going around till we run out of time. Kyoko, start us off.
Absolutely. I will be happy to. So I did my second rewatch earlier today. It was quite fun because I want to get a little bit more of the meat of things so I don't overlook details and stuff. And so since we blew through a lot of the comedic ones, I got to the serious rewatch today. So I was in there kind of holding my chest and just wanting to comfort poor Sam. So what I wanted to start with is as I do my rewatch, I noticed I really favor season 4. So probably most of my choices for the rest are going to be 4, but I want to start with 3. And the one that I decided to rewatch in 3 that I really enjoyed is Fresh Blood.
Okay.
Because there's so many episodes, I'll do like kind of a short recap about that in case people have forgotten. And Fresh Blood is the episode where oh yes, so Gordon Brown, the one who was played by Sterling K. Brown, came back for his revenge and gets turned by a vampire himself, and still has that awful grudge against Sam and Dean. And now he's super powered and pissed off. Not only is it just Sterling K. Brown being Sterling K. Brown, long before we knew who he really was at that point. That was the cool part, is like getting to rewatch it before he was like super big. He was on his way up. And that performance was also just amazing. So I just wanted to tip my hat to him very, very quickly because he really does a great job. But in watching that one, I really enjoyed it simply because you wouldn't think it's a Sam-centric type of episode, but what happens in it to me is so important in terms of his relationship to Dean, his relationship to monsters in general, and his own even, I guess, identity, like of what he thinks of himself. And seeing how Gordon's just blatant hatred, blaming Sam, and seeing that Sam agrees with him in some ways and blames himself for so much. It really informed a lot about his character. I definitely think it was one of the episodes where I felt very sympathetic towards him, just knowing that, especially since Dean was surprised when he's like, "Oh no, sorry, we got to kill him now," because he made it clear it's us or him, and it's got to be us because we got to save the world. Um, and just seeing like there's littler details like that, or even the way that they felt about needing to kill that vampire girl that got turned out of necessity, because at the end of the day, they are out here making the worst decisions that anyone has to ever be asked to make, and often they're forced to make them. But at the same time, they still kind of, if they can, find a way to rise above. And I think that was a lot of this episode, is seeing how far Sam was willing to go to try and make things right, or even just protect Sam. I mean, beheading someone with freaking razor wire is pretty intense. It's why I get a little salty when everybody's like, Dean is the cool one, Dean's so intense. I was like, are we watching the same show? Because Mr. Sam has had some quite strong moments, including that beheading, because that's no joke. I mean, holding razor wire and pulling hard enough to decapitate a vampire is not easy. And he's like staring into his eyes the entire time he's dying. It's just, whew. So very intense episode, but I really just liked so much of how it characterizes Sam as still being in this place of feeling the necessary responsibility, but also having the pushback from Dean as well, because Dean is still in this space where he's not always trusting Sam or relying on him, believing his word. So it was a really great rewatch for that one. I thought that was a great episode.
Okay, Carol?
I'm going to go back to season 2, Born Under a Bad Sign. We get to meet Meg Sam. But it's really fun because we don't know at first that it's really Meg. So we think it's Sam. And he's all kind of like, I'm all freaked out, Dean. And Dean's like, don't worry, we're going to take care of it. Like, Dean's like, I don't care that you killed a hunter. You know, we're going to take care of it. Nobody's going to pin this on you. But but it really is Meg. And, you know, this almost fond look when he looks at Dean and says, you know, you just should have shot me, or, you know, whatever. He's like, you just should have gone with it, and knocks him out. But the best part, by which I mean, of course, the most evil part, is him in the bar with Joe. And again, of course, at first, Joe doesn't know it's Sam, but she's not happy to see him, you know. And the last time she saw him and Dean was when she found out that John Winchester had murdered her father. Now, arguably to put him out of misery, but nonetheless, you know, my daddy shot your daddy in the head. So, you know, he's baiting her, and then she starts kind of realizing this isn't really him, but she doesn't get it for a while, and he's toying with her like a cat with a mouse. And it's one of the first times we get to see Jared play that kind of range where he's in Sam's body and everything, but he's not Sam. And, you know, he moves different, he sounds different, all of this stuff, that it's a really awesome performance. Um, and like I said, in season 2, this is one of the first times we get to see this. We see both of these actors doing this many times, of course, throughout the run of the show. But this first one is just chilling. You know, the casual way, the casual menace of him is chilling. And so I have to pick that definitely as one of my favorite Sam centrics, both for just the cold, creepy factor and the intensity of Jared Padalecki's performance in it.
He can
Well, we're on a
really
roll.
find that like whole distance.
Mhm.
He's really good at that. Like where it's just so remote that you feel a chill.
Well, while we're talking about Sam not being Sam, I'm going to go with Holy Terror. And this is the Ezekiel slash Gadriel episode. And it's another case where, you know, has Jared's done all these episodes where he was Meg, he was soulless, he was, you know, one thing or another. But here it's possessed by the angel. And it turns out that the angel lied to him, and it's Gadriel instead of Ezekiel. But watching Jared do that transformation is just amazing, and he manages to make it different every time he's possessed, which only in Supernatural do people get the chance to do that. Uh, quite so many times, at least. But you know, when he's Gadriel, he stands up straighter, he moves differently, he's more of a rigid soldier. The compassion goes out of his eyes. And so I agree that, you know, really have to hand it to Jared at being able to um, bring a character to life that isn't Sam, but using Sam's body and, you know, um, still maintaining that tie back to Sam. And that's not an easy thing to do. And as we mentioned, both boys get a chance to do some of it, but I think I think Jared probably did it more often than Jensen did, if I'm remembering correctly. He got repossessed more.
Yes, God bless it, poor thing.
Back to you, Kayoko.
All right. My next choice is actually the monster at the end of the book, which is in season 4, which is our episode where they discover the wonderful, weird world of Chuck and Phantom. So it was again, once again, really fun to rewatch that one. I was dreading it a little bit just because, like Chuck, I kind of just I hate the memory of how much trauma the two of them have been through in just the 4 seasons, let alone we go through 15 seasons of trauma. Just the 4 was already, so I was avoiding this one just a tiny bit. It was the last episode I watched before I was done. But as I rewatched it again, I just found myself really just getting engrossed in the general story of him finding out that their entire lives have been immortalized in a teeny tiny book series. Now, granted, it was never that popular, but it was very fun to kind of watch them get a lot of their exercise some of their fandom demons that they obviously had. Because again, as someone who's been in fandom since she was 15, we're exhausting. You did just yeah, fandom is exhausting, and so sometimes you gotta make little jokes here and there. Um, but what I really enjoyed, what the reason that I went back to that one is the tension between the brothers was used well in that episode, especially since they thought that they could subvert everything that Chuck, like when Chuck writes that new chapter and they're trying to subvert each time and finding out that the reality itself is kind of shifting around them, trying to make that difference, and that everything is predestined and they can't escape it. But at the same time, I liked that both of them had a solid argument. That Sam was like, well, why don't we just let her come and see if I'm strong enough? God help me. I hope I am. But at the same time, you get Dean not wanting to do that because it isn't very smart. It's you're placing a very, very big bet on not enough information. And also, I've always been a little bit frustrated with both the writers and Dean in this sort of way where they're aware that they always have Dean ordering Sam around and he doesn't like it, but it's not always openly acknowledged the way I feel like it should be. And this is a great example of that where Dean always feels like he gets to have the final say because he's the elder brother. And I get the seniority and I get that he has a solid plan too. But at the same time, he seemed to not have enough faith in his brother that he wouldn't in some way give in to Lilith. And that was very disappointing for me and probably very disappointing for Sam. But at the same time, it's really well written, that tension between the two of them, where Sam just wants to do what he feels is the right thing, which is in a situation where there is no real right thing. Every choice is terrible. But I just really appreciated seeing that dynamic, seeing the frustration, but we do also get the benefit of Dean finally listening to Sam and being like, all right, I want to leave. You can't leave, even though I'd rather just wander the street or whatever. But he does back Sam in the end. And I think that that was something that's missed from some of the future seasons. I really liked him still backing Sam, even if he had all those doubts. And I don't mean to bash Dean for having those doubts. He has them for a reason. Things have gone very, very poorly for them. But I just really enjoyed the way that they shone the light on the dynamic between the two of them and not just hanging his head out to dry, because that does happen quite a few times in the series. They kind of do just either blame everything on him or act like everything was his fault, whether he had a good choice or not. And this one, I felt like the intent was there and it was really, really well done.
Okay. Carol?
Well, I'm going to kind of pick up that thing where Sam doesn't always get to. Dean's often trying to impose his plan over Sam's by the end of season 4, where in Lucifer Rising, they do finally go for Sam's plan. You know, they're kind of out of other options. And they're like, oh, okay, you know, we don't have anything else, you know, in the queue. And so they do it. And Dean's very unhappy about it. Make sure everybody knows that. But Sam really, kind of gathers himself and says, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm going to do this. He uh is that when he drinks all the blood and he says he doesn't want Dean to watch him?
Hmm.
He's like, don't watch me do this. But then the big confrontation is there they are in Ilchester. There's Lilith, you know, blonde and sexy and beautiful, and she's taunting him and she's taunting him, and he does it. He kills her, and then finds out that was their plan all along. He's been totally played since day one. Ruby's crowing with delight, and he's beyond crushed. Here he thought, I was doing the right thing. This is what needed to be done. Lilith needed to be killed so that Lucifer couldn't rise. And lo and behold, it is in fact Lilith's death that is the final thing to free Lucifer. So he went into this so nobly, and then turned out to be, a plaything, a fate's plaything. And uh, and instead of being victorious that they killed Lilith and closed the gate, here he comes. you know um yeah, and so his whole performance through there where he's fighting her and he's trying to, he's not happy about turning him over to himself to this power and everything, but he's doing it because he feels this is what needs to be done. And then to find out in the end it was not just even for nothing, it was for everything they were opposing, his devastation, and then the final scene, as we're seeing the light coming up and we know here comes Lucifer, he and Dean reach out to each other. They're watching the light, but they reach out to each other and grab each other's jackets, and they're like little boys all over again, watching their the first evil thing they ever saw. And so it's a really touching moment in this ending of a catastrophe. you know so we feel for Sam so badly, uh and then we're a little worried about the rest of the world too.
Okay. I'm going to go with When the Levee Breaks. This is the panic room episode, and it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch on a number of different levels. It's hard because Sam is suffering so much with the hallucinations and the blood withdrawal, and Dean seems very callous, but we're also shown that this is ripping him apart, that he thinks this is what he has to do, but the fact that he knows it is hurting Sam and might kill Sam is just killing him. Even though he is sticking with the tough love as he understands it, um, he's really struggling. And then there's Bobby in the mix, and um, they're all debating what the best thing is to do, because this is not something that necessarily comes up every day. Um, and Cass has his own agenda, and Sam, Jared just plays Sam so well, going through those hallucinations and the physical effects of detox, and a brutal detox because he's not getting any drugs to help him, come down from it. And, again, the the physical acting of showing those symptoms, and um, the way we see a very vulnerable, hurt side of Sam as opposed to what we have seen, when he's strong and in control, even when he is um, sensitive, and when he's questioning, we haven't seen this kind of just breakdown. And so once again, it's a tough episode to watch. It's not necessarily a happy episode. It doesn't end on a happy note, although we know how it goes, so we have hope. Uh, but kudos again to Jared for turning in a performance for a really rough scenario. Coco?
I think the next one I will pick, I flipped my order because I like this one a little bit better, is It's a Terrible Life in season 4. And so that's the episode where it just starts up and Dean is this like corporate executive who like eats salads and makes wheat toast, like cleanses and stuff. And then Sam is like an IT guy, and they have no idea that they're related. They have no idea they're in an alternate reality. They have no idea about ghosts, angels, and demons, and all kinds of shit. And it's another one of like it's slightly more lighthearted, which is cool. And it also introduced him to that great song in the opening I hadn't heard before. But I really enjoyed that one too, just because it's such a great metaphor for their predicament, which is like this whole argument of predestination, that there are things that you are meant to do in life, and even if you're a completely different scenario, you fall into the same patterns, even if you have no memory of anything. But it proved that the two of them in a way are sort of destined to just intervene, if nothing else. I definitely think the show has always had a great exploration of whether or not they need to do what they do, and if it has to be them doing what they do. But it was a really good just example of seeing Sam's resolve, especially since he had no prior knowledge of anything, and yet all of these little things that he was able to pick up on, it just reminds you of how resourceful and resilient he is, as a character. And there were just so many like little things that I enjoyed about them, kind of almost relearning who each person was. He wasn't himself, obviously, and neither was Dean. But they still managed to find a connection in spite of a really crazy scenario where an angel just dead ass made up an alternate reality just to, I don't know, prove his point. But it does a lot of really good heavy lifting in terms of both their characters. But I liked the way that Sam comes across in that one. That even though the two of them are super traumatized, in a way they do actually enjoy what they do. Like when they're done, just the first time they dispel the ghost, and he was like, "That was fun, right?" And he's just like put off by it because at first it's like I shouldn't say that was fun, but it could, in a little way, it kind of was if you just live the mundane office space existence. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that one a lot. I like seeing them get to step outside of who they are and be slightly different. I love the way that the episode closes as well. It's just like, and I thought the guy who plays Zachariah was phenomenal. I've always liked him. He was great bit player. And so yes, I think I really enjoyed that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
Carol?
I love Zachariah. I love every
He's
episode he's in. He is just
he's great.
terrific.
He
Um,
is.
and I also love there were a lot of comedic little moments in there. I mean, I especially love that they end up learning how to kill a ghost by going on the ghost face.
Yes. And then Ghostface was being so petty and complaining about the Winchesters every chance they get.
That
That
was
was so
hilarious.
cute. It was great.
Ah, all right. I'm gonna go from all this humor and rip your hearts out now. And I'm gonna go to Carry On, a series finale, the last episode of season 15. I mean, they both are incredible here because, of course, Dean's dying words to Sam is like, you know, that's heartbreaking. But just focusing on Sam in here, um, the the cute, funny moment where he bonks Dean in the face with pie is hilarious. We rarely see Sam just go for a joke, you know, and of course in direct opposition to Jared himself, who goes for the joke every time. So to see him like just on a whim uh, get Dean in the face with the pie is just so amusing, um, and kind of helps us get through the next parts. Um, we focus a lot on Dean's speech, you know, when he's knows he's saying goodbye. But when we look at Sam's reaction to the whole speech, that's why we're so, I think that our tears come so easily because we're seeing Sam's tears. Um, Dean's words move us, but it's Sam's reaction, I think, that really yanks our heart out, because he knows he's losing his brother. This is the most important person in his entire life. He's never had a relationship like this. He's never, nobody knows him like this. He's Even when he and Dean are giving each other a hard time, he's always looking up to Dean. And to see his grief as he knows Dean is leaving. I'm unable to watch that scene without tears streaming down my face as Sam is crying. And I can't, I think both of them were so open about their own feelings about working with each other and leaving these characters, and that emotion really underscored their performances. So, watching those tears, and, he's not crying pretty. He's like tears and snot, and he can barely speak and all of this stuff. Um, the hand clenched on Dean's shirt and pressed against his heart. Um, that is an amazing, that it's just amazing. The whole scene is amazing, but for me, it's especially tied up with Sam's really his heart being torn out. Dean's really sad, but you know what? He's he's all done. Sam's got to keep going, and he promises to keep going. And then we watch him keep going. And yes, he has a beautiful little boy. You can see the joy of him enjoying, being a father, raising his son, doing all the things with his son that he never got to do, and they're playing ball, and he's helping the son with homework and all of these things. So you can see they have a really rich, full relationship that Sam never had with John Winchester. And yet, in the midst of his life of light and joy, he goes in, sits in the Impala, and cries, So we see that even as he's gone through his life, now here he is, and many, many years has passed, and his hair is white, yet there he goes, sits in the Impala, and grieves afresh for his brother. And that too is like, I just can't help crying all over again, you know. Um, it's a tour de force, and if they went out on such a high note with that, and um, he didn't leave anything behind. He gave it everything, and we see it and we feel it, and it's magnificent. It's just really magnificent.
I think that
And
was
in
part of
Jared's
why.
defense, with the hair, it was shot under COVID
Oh, I know.
protocol.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't think they could have the makeup and wardrobe people, but yeah, the hair. I'm sorry, Kyoko.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, I think that was part of why, if you go and look, the distance between Logan and all the other X-Men movies in terms of reviews and ratings, I think that was why it just not only is it just an amazing film, but spoiler alert, sort of, for a movie that's almost 10 years old. So, this is on you, person watching. But just that moment of it felt like Hugh was personally saying goodbye to you in that scene. And you'll know which one I'm talking about, so I won't full spoil. But it felt like he was personally thanking us for supporting him and being there. And I love you guys, and I have to go now, and it hurts me and it hurts you, but I gotta go. And I think that was definitely something that was very deeply felt similarly, especially in finales that are written well enough where it definitely feels like you can feel the actors thanking you for the ride, thanking you for ups and downs, because I know, like I said, we're a difficult fandom to deal with, but I think it genuinely came through so much.
Yeah.
I think it was also very clear that, without having to belabor the point or really put it into a lot of words, that Dean Jr. had heard so much about Dean that he understood as much as someone who never met the person could about Sam's bond with his brother, and why Sam was ready to go. And so when he says, "You can go now," and again, echoing Sam back with Dean in the barn, but giving that permission, understanding as well as he could that Sam was ready to leave and Sam was ready to go be reunited with Dean. And so that says a lot without having to put it into words about how much Sam must have talked about Dean and to some extent what they did, at least a sanitized version of it, that Dean Jr. got the point. And so that I thought was interesting. I'm
Yeah, it's a
gonna.
little bit like Tony at the end game, where you can rest. That was the last thing
Mhm,
that Pepper said to him. Yeah.
mhm. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning to All Hell Breaks Loose, part one. And, Sam finds himself with these other strangers in this deserted town, and he tries to step up to a leadership role. This is a very young Sam here, but he tries to rally them, he tries to lead them. And it doesn't work because he's the only one not out to shiv everybody in the back. Everybody else is just out for themselves and out to win. And I think we see um, Sam being noble, even though it doesn't work out for him. And we're still getting to know the boys in this episode. This is still very early on. So we get some insights. We see him functioning as a leader or trying to, um, and doing his best there. But then when he gets stabbed, literally in the back, and is taking those last staggering steps toward Dean, and you know that he took his first staggering steps toward Dean, and Dean's there to catch him. Um, just that's what he craved in his last moments, last breath was to be with Dean. It's just acted so powerfully and done so well. And once again, um, conveyed physically as well as with the script, but sometimes even more powerfully without words, just the connection between Sam and Dean and how powerful that is. We have time for one more quick round. Kyoko, give us another one.
Cool. So we'll end on a slight note where I need to defend Sam a teeny tiny bit. So I'm going to pick season 7, The Girl Next Door. So that's the episode with the kitsune where it jumps between current time and past time of 20 years ago when Sam first learned of a kitsune in a small town, and he was sent as a kid. Good parenting, John Winchester. To go deal with this by his effing self. And he's a teenage, either preteen or mid-teens, but not late teens. So, as we have said before, there is literally a tag on AO3 that is just called John Winchester's A++ parenting.
Parenting.
Oh, just so not only is it a tough episode to get through for those reasons. Again, I have no children. I am Lady McNo kids, and I'm going to stay that way. However, I get so mad at fictional parents that are awful. And Mr. Winchester, like I said, he's the only person I can really say is worse as a character from Justified. Arlo Givens is about the only other human dad that I know that is worse than Sean Winchester. But it's an episode where like I said, there's a kitsune, and it turned out they met before, and Sam spared her because she ended up saving him. And she also seemed like it wasn't really, it's not a choice. I am an entity. My mother was an entity and she brought me into the world. What do you want me to do about it? So it was a very unfair bag that poor girl got handed, as being born whatever she was. It wasn't her choice. And being carted around by someone full on abusive. And gracious, does that degenerate immediately when she finds Sam? But seeing that bond was really, really beautiful and sad. Just knowing that how difficult it was for him to follow orders and also never feel like he was enough, no matter what he was. I am a child that was asked to go to a whole different city by myself and find a monster and kill it. And you're yelling at me over the phone for like stupid shit. I mean, that is so much stress to put. These kids get stressed out about little, like, math tests and things. That's what he should be worried about. Math tests and pimples. I'm out here with a knife killing a monster by myself, and you're yelling at me on the phone every time I talk. And but it really shows you a lot of like my frustration in general with this show, which is like they always do this thing of like trying to blame Sam for things, regardless of whether he made a poor choice or not. And it's like, but you have to understand too, Sam has been given the worst bag ever. I was born into this. When I tried to leave, both of you rejected me and then just came back because now you need me because you messed up too bad. And I had to up in my entire life. And, 7 years in, I'm still dealing with Sam acting like I'm his baby brother, and he can't leave me alone. I can't make my own decisions. He can't trust when I say I'm fine. When Dean says he's fine, you have to shut up and let Dean be fine. But when I'm not fine, you can nag me to death. And it can't be a one-way street. And I like the show showing us that dynamic because it still definitely was a problem where I understand why Dean has that instinct, but at the same time, Sam is a very capable person, and no, he's not okay. But the problem is you're not trying to understand why he's not okay. You just want him to rush to being okay because it's easier for you. And so I can understand why Sam also wanted to leave that environment because it's very frustrating. I've always thought that they did a really good job with, especially like the stuff that Sam deals with directly after getting rid of Satan, or how much of how much we got rid of Satan at the time in season 7. Just in terms of, I get why he wanted to be apart from that, because in a way, Sam's demonic powers, the way that they're dealt with, they kind of make it a metaphor for both drug abuse and I think mental health, which I like a whole lot, because those are two things where a lot of people don't know how to handle someone in their life that suffers from those things. And I like that this show kind of gently touched that, to be like, oh, okay, there may be situations where someone's not mentally healthy, but it's not, we understand that you're concerned, but you need to understand them. You don't need to be like, I gotta fix it. No, you need to know where it comes from. And so seeing him bond with the kitsune, both in the past and in the future, I thought was very well done. I also forgot that was Jill State, by the way, so that was a nice surprise. Um, but I have to, and I don't want to run up our time, so I'll say I was furious in the last 5 minutes. It's, there's only a handful of times where I've outright hated Dean. I hated him. I hated him, and I don't forgive him for what he did. I'm sorry. I understand why he felt he needed to do that, but at the end of the day, it was always a problem of like Dean feels he has final authority, and that's not always correct. He is not always correct. He's very self-righteous, and it's not fair that I get to decide who you are. I decided you're a monster, you got to go, even though you have proven that you're maintaining what you have, that you were born with, and there was no choice for you other than yourself. So it left the horrible taste in my mouth, which it should. It was written that way, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, I never forgave Dean for doing that. I just, it was such an unspeakably awful thing to do. Not because just ending a woman's life and presumably her child. I don't remember, he kills the kid too, but I would get. Does he kill the kid? I forgot.
No.
No,
Or
the kid says,
okay.
I'll see you when I've grown up.
That's what I was gonna say is the other problem. It's like, oh well, you should have killed them both, because kid, if he's old enough to remember you, he sure is gonna grow up and hunt you down. But let me stop talking. I mean, if you were willing to X her, then kill the kid too, Dean, since you just want to go there. But my frustration came from Sam finally trusted you to tell you about the kitsune, and your reaction was exactly why he didn't tell you that when he was a kid. You ignored everything that I just said to you, that I entrusted you with, and you made an alternate decision after I trusted you with a secret, especially one that was vital to my health, mental health growing up, vital to me as a person. I finally trust you with a secret, and you immediately violate that trust. So again, it just, boy, it really pushed me over the deep end. But again, I can commend them. The writing for that is phenomenal, because again, it
Okay.
really burnt me up.
Okay. Carol?
Heart, season 2, episode 17. Heart is great on 2 levels. One is, and let's just call a spade, we get to see Sam enjoy hot fire in front of the fireplace sex with a beautiful woman, And, he's gorgeous. You know, we haven't seen a lot of him with a shirt off or anything at this point, and here he is in all his quite amazing glory. uh, and Madison is wonderful. We love her by this point. She's smart, she's sexy, she's funny. Sam has really met somebody on his level. He's enough past the loss of Jessica that he can embrace having feelings for somebody. And they've been through the trauma of like, oh my gosh, what if she's a werewolf? Yay, she's not a werewolf. Woohoo. And they celebrate this like very passionately. Then the second part is watching him deal with the fact that she was a werewolf, and that's already horrible. But then she decides, I'm not going to be a werewolf. I'm going to end it. And I want you to do it. And like, not to hurt him or anything, but like, she's the one, he's the one she trusted to do it quickly, to make sure it was done so that she would not hurt people, because there was no way she could live with herself if she hurt people and killed people. But of course, it's absolutely devastating for him. And, the tears are just pouring down his face. And even Dean has that moment where he's like, let me do it. He wants to spare his brother that agony. And Sam's like, no, she asked me. I have to do it. And that, the dichotomy of his grief and despair, along with his determination and his strength of character, is just blows it out of the water. And that moment is one of the strongest, most moving moments, even in all the seasons to come. Is Sam acknowledge, not even acknowledging it, but claiming that this is his. He's going to do it. That final look at Dean before he marches into the room and we hear the gunshot. So we have glory, and then we have tragedy.
Like I said, it's so hard to watch this show. You just want to reach in there and just hold them. It's like, and just tell them it's gonna be okay. You're lying and it's not gonna be okay. You just want to tell them.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm going to go with Stranger in a Strange Land. This is when Dean is possessed by Michael. And Sam, once again, usually he lets Dean take the lead, older brother and all that. But Sam steps into being chief. He steps into his leadership role and he assembles a team and they go looking for Michael and they try to figure out how to get Dean back. And I love seeing Sam step into a leadership role that he's entirely competent to be in. He just steps aside, out of deference to Dean. But it's wonderful when he steps up to the plate, and you can see that other people recognize that leadership capacity in him and are very willing to follow him. And even though it chafes somewhat on Dean when he runs into Sam in charge, there's also still the respect there because Sam makes it work and Sam knows what he's doing. So I thought that that was an interesting side to an episode that is arguably more about Dean, but Sam plays a very slightly different role in it, and we get to see a different side of him. Well, folks, we have run through our time again. There are 327 episodes. There are Sam-centric moments in all of them, but we have finished up what we have time for tonight. So briefly in the last couple minutes here, please let us know where we can find you online. And if you have a new, recent, or upcoming book, tell us about it. Kyoko?
Once again, I was Kyoko M. I have a upcoming short story in the Fire and Ash anthology. You can look that up. That will be out the end of January of next year. It is actually a short story about Agent Yusuke Akamura, who is chasing after the escaped Siren Wyvern from my series. So if you have read my books, or you just like reading about dragons being humanely caught, you can go ahead and take a look at that. It will be out in January. And then all of my stuff is at shewhowritesmonsters.com.
Very good. Carol?
As Carol Stokes, you can find me on Facebook, especially in the Continual group and Gail's TFWNC group, and on many, 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 many continual panels. As Ellis Colton, all of my social media links and my newsletter sign up are at elliscolton.com. And currently, I have The Silver Dragon, which is about karate and not dragons, in Kindle Unlimited, as I am working on the sequel to it, The Noble Dragon. So look for those. And if you like the paranormal, then check out my Adventures in Love and the Paranormal, featuring two young men who go around battling evil things and falling in love.
Okay.
All
I'm
on
pretty,
Amazon.
I'm pretty easy to find online as gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com. If you spell those right, you'll find me on all of the social media sites as well. The most recent book is a Morgan Bryce book, and that is Cursed in my Witchbane series. And the next book coming up is Angels and Omens in my Treasure Trail series, also a Morgan Bryce book. And fingers crossed, I'm hoping to get it out by the end of the year. It'll be a squeaker if we can do that, but we just might. So thank you so much. It was a wonderful discussion. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more supernatural coming up on Continual, so we'll see you online.